We will now pass the basket.
Thank you, brother.
This is a weekly STEP meeting. Our format is as follows. A speaker is asked to talk for 25 to 30 minutes on the STEP of that week, followed by discussion or questions until 7 p.m. You can find these weekly meetings on our YouTube page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Don't forget to smash the button. And that brings us to the speaker portion of the meeting on April 19th. April 19th, 2021, in Doylestown, PA, at the Monday night 6 p.m. Stay Alive Literature and Step Group at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Tonight's speaker is Tim, and he'll be sharing his experience on Step 3. Please help me welcome Tim.
Thank you, Carolyn. Ron, thank you for asking me to speak tonight. It's always a great honor to be here. Anytime I'm asked to speak or to be in service in AA, it's always an honor to do God's will. Because if I'm being asked, then it's God's will. It's not mine. I'm being asked to do something in a program full of people who've given me such a gift. That I would certainly do what it would take to give what I was given freely, to give it back. That's what I was taught. I can't keep this unless I give it away. I'd like to read something out of the 12 and 12 really quickly. How persistently we claim the right to decide all by ourselves just what we shall think and just how we shall act. Oh yes, we'll weigh the pros and cons of every problem. We'll listen politely to those who would advise us, but all the decisions are to be ours alone. Nobody is going to meddle with our personal independence in such matters. Besides, we think there is no one we can surely trust. We are certain that our intelligence, backed by willpower, can rightly control our inner lives and guarantee us success in the world we live in. This brave philosophy, wherein each man plays God, sounds good in the speaking, but it still has to meet the acid test. How well does it actually work? One good look in the mirror ought to be answer enough for any alcoholic. On August 1st, 2017, and I shared this last week, but I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was probably 160 pounds. I've been up for 3 days. I've run everything into the ground in my life. I've hurt every single person that I've ever loved and have ever loved me. And I'm looking at myself in a mirror with tears running down my eyes, asking myself the question that I've asked myself for many, many years. What is wrong with me? Why can't I stop? Why can't I stop doing the things that I keep doing to the people I keep doing it to? But yet I know better. I got the plan. I seem to know what's going on, what's better for you, and what's better for me. What's good? You ever get global? It's good for the species. And what happened on that day was that I turned it over without knowing that I was turning it over. And what I mean by that is my will. The bullets, I had no more bullets in the chamber. No more arrows in the quiver. I had surrendered unbeknownst to myself, because I didn't even know what that was. Because I certainly have never done that before. And God, that day, came into my heart. I didn't know what it was, but I knew what it was. It was as if I'm a musician, and God is blessed me with music and song. And if you've ever played on stage, you'll know that the idea is to lose yourself and find yourself in the same moment. So you can let go, but be there at the same time, you know? And that's what it felt like. It's the best way I could describe that moment where God had got into my heart. And the first step happened upon me. I don't think I worked the first step. It happened on that day. In that moment, I knew it. I ran at it, Tim. Finally. Finally ran out of Tim. Excuse me, it's a little emotional. And somehow I found myself in these rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, probably a day later, crawling into what would be my home group and sitting down amongst all of you. And you started to share all the things that I was feeling that I could never verbalize, or that I could never communicate or articulate on any kind of level. And it's just, you found me. As if I was found. As if you knew me more than I knew me. That's what it felt like. And my second step experience was, again, I'm sitting with all of you, and I'm listening to the shares, and I'm listening to the people talk about how their fears and the resentments, and how everything was not going their way, and then they believed in something they have never believed in. And their heart changed. Their mind changed. And the way they treated people changed. And the way they could look at life. And it didn't make any sense to me that could happen. It didn't make any sense that was even a possibility. That I could get to that place of solace, of peace, through humility. You know, just being humble. I don't think I knew what humility meant when I walked into the door of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know what that was like. I didn't know. I want to take credit for everything, Ron. And in Bill's story, he talks about the drive for success was on, right? And to prove to the world I was important. And that was my mantra for many years, and I found myself staring into a mirror, 160 pounds with nothing in his pocket, nothing left in his soul, and everyone mad at me has done everything in their power to help me. I have nothing left. And that's the beauty of that moment. The beauty of that, me running out of me, is that God can get in there at that moment. Because I'm just backing away enough. You know? And then I was surrendered. I don't think I can bring out my own surrender. I don't think anyone picks their own sobriety date. So that must mean that I am surrendered, right? You know? And I remember my first meeting at, if anyone knows, the Lansdale Clubhouse, EAM. I remember walking down the hill, the driveway, and I'm closing my eyes because I'm filled with fear. I mean, my head's on fire, but nobody can see it, you know. I'm closing my eyes, and as I'm walking down the hill, I can hear laughter. And then I can hear somebody saying, "Hey man, thank you for sending me flowers to my mother's funeral." And I opened my eyes, and there was two men hugging. And I'm like, am I at the right place here? You know, this is Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm hearing life. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking everyone's going to be like me. Everyone's just the same, just, head down. It looks like someone shot my puppy. And everybody was, not like to paint a picture that it was all shits and giggles. Ooh, excuse my language. It was all fun and games. Because I think someone got slapped after the meeting. But what I heard was life. What I heard was something I didn't expect. People living. People complimenting each other. People actually, when they ask you, how are you doing, they mean it. Ever notice that in here? Somebody really means what they say. They're like, how are you doing, man? Not how you feeling. How are you doing? Because feelings aren't facts. Feelings go and feelings come, but love stays, right? And it was very peculiar to me. Walked in, sat in the front row. It was a free-flow topic meeting. And I started hearing everyone share, and I noticed that all the things, and I mentioned this last week, but all the things that happened to each and one of you, all the millions of things that got you to this moment right here, I had absolutely nothing to do with. Clearly, there's a power greater than myself, because I didn't have anything to do with you guys getting here in the same room with exactly the same heart, the same problem, the same disease, the same way we think, the same way we act. All walks of life, all shapes and sizes. But man, were the similarities incredible. And that was my second step experience. Came to believe something bigger than me. It was right in front of my face. They're all looking at me now. If I'm with you, you plus me is a power greater than me. It's that simple. We're here for the reason of recovery. When we're here for the reason of recovery, something happens. That's what I experienced. Something's with us. Being convinced, we're at step 3. Being convinced of what? Being convinced of the ABCs. Being convinced that I was an alcoholic and I could not manage my own life. The book talks that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And that God could and would if he were sought. And I knew that he could because I was seeing it around me. But can he? Will he for me? Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. I was a man of consideration. I was willing. I guess that's the word, right? The willingness. There's so many groups that they're called mustard seeds in AA. Because all you need is a tiny grain of faith, man. Just something to get in there. And it comes from that willingness, I think. So we decided to turn our will, which is our thought life, and our lives, our actions, over to the God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? I had to make a requirement. And that was the first requirement, that being convinced that my life run on my will is an absolute disaster. Now, the cool thing about this book is like Jumanji. It's like a lie that comes to where you are. You ever notice that? The book just comes to you wherever you are. And you read it, if you're in a step meeting, it just seems like it comes to you. So at any point, if I'm looking at my life, if I have 10 minutes or if I have 10 years, and I'm looking at parts of my life, is there any part of my life that isn't bearing fruit? Is there any part of my life that is just stuck, not moving anywhere? The relationship's still a problem. I'm still in collision with someone, not getting anywhere fast. And underneath that, I find it's my self-will. I'm the one holding it back. I'm the one with my arms around it. So I can't go anywhere because I don't trust God. That I'm doubting God. You would call that my current agnosticism. Right? That I am doubting that God can take me past anything. Through any situation, at all, wherever I am in my life. It's almost like a litmus test to see where you are. Where am I? And at that point, walking in this door, there was nothing that was moving. There was absolutely nothing moving in my life. So clearly, it wasn't really hard for me to be convinced that my life run on my will is an absolute disaster, because it's right in front of me. And the writing's on the wall. My mom told me that she was planning my funeral. I still don't think a mother should have to say that to her son, who just wants to walk around this earth thinking he knows better. Look how well I'm doing, Ma. And then this book does the most amazing thing. I remember I was knee to knee with my sponsor, who I thank God for. I remember after that meeting I told you about earlier, he came up to me and he gave me one of the biggest gifts I'm ever going to receive in my entire life, I think. And he gave me this big book. And then he gave me the second biggest present, which is his time. He committed. I asked him to sponsor me, and he would, and he gave me his time. And his commitment, he matched my willingness. And I sat knee to knee, and he read the black print and the white pages in this blue book. And he started reading, each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. It was like as if the book was reading to me. I've never heard that before. I've never heard it be so eloquently put, because that's exactly what I was doing. Because I didn't have a God in my life. I didn't have a relationship with something. I wasn't strong. In order for me to be, I'm not strong. But I can believe in something that is. And I can hold on to something that is strong. I don't know if anyone ever did this, but I had scripts for everybody. Like they talk about the actor. And I would write scripts for all of you. But I never send it to you. And then if you didn't do it, I'm going to get really mad. Because he didn't go as far as I'm going to call cut. And I wonder why everything was an absolute disaster, because I'm not God. And that's about what this is about. I had to quit playing God. If I believe in God, I just came to believe that there's a power greater than me. If I quit playing God, there's a chance that I could live, because at the bottom of human pain is being totally useless, I think. Just being utterly useless. I was utterly useless. But if you can be useful, you can live. You know, I was told we were going to serve alcoholics, we're going to serve man, or we're going to serve the body. I'm going to serve something. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that's what we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past we have made decisions based on self which later placed us in a position to be hurt. And that's sort of what I was just talking about, where I would write the script, you're not doing the way I want it, I'm going to try to manipulate you, get what I want, you're not going to do it, and then I'm going to get angry, and then I'm going to feel sad later. That's self-pity. Repeat. And I'm building brick walls in front of everybody as I'm doing this, because I'm trying to manipulate everyone, because I just want what I want when I want it. How childish could that be? But that's what we do. That's what I did. This is the root of my problem. And I think this next statement, if we look at this statement, so our troubles we think are basically of our own making, is if we look at the positive side of that statement, this is how I was taught. Because you can look at it negatively. Because the way I look at it is, so our troubles we think of are basically of our making, is that how freeing that is that I don't have to fix the world and change everybody. That's impossible for me to be okay. That means all you have to be perfect around me to be okay. That's insane. That's insanity. That's me running my life on my will because I want you guys to do what I want you to do when I want it. If you're not going to do it, you're voted off the island. And then I'm isolated. There's another fun part. You get to isolate too, Carolyn. You know what I mean? You isolate from yourself. Now what I'm doing is I'm separating myself from you and from God. And that's exactly what the disease wants from me. It wants my soul. It wants me by myself. How many times have you heard the stories? He's by himself in a hotel room, nowhere to be found. Not answering the phone, completely by himself. It's exactly where the disease wants me. Because then I can get my soul. Because that's really what it's after. Sadly. But there's a way out. There's a way I can be saved. There's a way that I can live a life by turning my life, my will, over to the care of God as I understand Him. And I don't have to understand God to know God. I just have to know that there is one. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. May I do Thy will always. If I don't do this, if I don't get off that stage, if I don't stop acting, if I don't stop moving everybody around and writing scripts, the world and the people around me aren't going to do what I want them to do, and I'm going to get angry. I'm going to block myself off by the one thing, which is the power of God, that can actually relieve my alcoholism. The one thing, the very one thing that will help me. I'm going to block it off by my own volition. So this is a gift. This opportunity to make a decision. But there's a difference between a decision and the commitment and action that follows. I can make that choice, but I have to move my feet. My sponsor always told me, I'm going to train your feet to move against your head. Your feet will save you, but your head will kill you, man. I think that's all I have for right now. I really want to thank everyone. Thanks, Ron, for having me, and thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Please limit your sharing to 3 minutes, and don't forget to remove your mask while sharing. Please keep your shares related to the step. If you feel like drinking, or if you've had a drink today, please see me or speak to someone after the meeting. We ask that you please refrain from the use of profanity. We are in a church and on a spiritual journey.